Hey everybody, welcome to the webinar. Today we're going to be talking about AI for ARM businesses 101. We're going to be going over some basics and helping you out. First, I have a poll that I set up, so I'm going to launch it for all of you. First question, are you using AI already, either in your business or in your personal life? Um, all right. So we got mostly beginners. This is good. So some of you are answering yes. All right, good. So today we have Chris. For most of you, you may have heard of Chris. He's our wonderful account executive. He is an expert on all things in AI for collections. And he's going to walk us through today some of the basic principles of AI, what some other agencies are doing, and ways that you can get started easily. And at the end, I've invited our CTO, AL, who's going to come for Q&A. So if you have any pressing questions that you'd like to answer, like him to answer, we are here to help. All right. Oh, and if you have any questions throughout, please put them in the Q&A panel and we'll get to them at the end. All right, guys, let's welcome Chris. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, pleasure to meet everyone. Looking forward to this session. Goal here is to be super tactical, but also feel free to ask questions. Remy's going to keep an eye on the chat. And really my goal here is to make sure you have practical steps, to make sure you have a basic understanding of AI and be able to kind of take next steps. And for those of you who maybe haven't started with AI, find a way to how to get started. Maybe for those that are kind of along that journey, a couple ideas of how to kick off other projects. So with that, so who am I? So Chris Von Hewen, I have been in the ARM space for over 3 years. High level, I've sold AI products for 5 to 6 years across various industries. So decent amount of knowledge across the AI space that's helped me see a lot of trends and also understand how things are evolving. So why this webinar matters? I mean, we all know that AI is here to stay and grow. The question becomes is how do I embrace that within my agency? How do I actually take that step? There's a lot of buzzwords and it can seem overwhelming, right? But there are great ways just to get started in small areas, and that's what we'll be covering. And then lastly, this isn't a pitch on Cedric products. The goal is to really focus on how to get you started, how to enable you, and be that resource and that guide for you. So with that, we'll get rolling. So before we dive into AI, I wanted to take a moment and say, okay, how do we define AI? Right? So just a standard definition is it's software that learns patterns from data and uses to make predictions or decisions. And when we think of AI, we kind of hear a lot of different terms. So I wanted to take a little bit of time and kind of break down maybe some of the terms you've heard, like machine learning or ML for short. Think of that as like level one, which is like the first level of your AI journey or kind of like the AI models. So that's data. It's basically a model that learns from a lot of data. So essentially, the more data you throw at it, the more data gets trained on, and it can spot patterns, right? So think of it as kind of like the simple AI model. That's why we have it marked as level one. And then when you hear natural language processing or NLP for short, that's going up to level two. So what NLP does is it has the ability to understand those human conversations, right? So understanding like what a customer may say or debtor may say in a call or email. And you can just think of it as like that, super powered listener. So it can spot like intent, sentiment, promises to pay, disputes, etc. So essentially taking in the information and being able to start highlight or spotting things of interest for you, right? Now, getting to kind of the more advanced areas now, level three, a large language model or an LLM for short, this is going to be like a natural language processing model, but on a completely different level and a lot more advanced. So this one is trained on a massive amount of data. There's publicly generated large language models out there. I'm sure all of you have heard of some of them. And think of it as like a robot that's read a million collection calls and can summarize and explain and even draft a complaint response in seconds. So essentially take this, give it a million plus calls, and it's going to be able to then know enough to start giving you some insights back, right? The last level, at least as it stands from the AI, today, is Gen AI, which is a generative AI, which is level 4. So this is the AI that's going to be able to generate things, right? So when we think of like a chat GPT or Grok and we are prompting it to get an answer, that's a generative AI. So that can write the email, suggest what to do or say on a call, draft your notes, write summaries for you, do calculations, etc. So that's really that co-pilot. And so when we think about AI and we're talking about it, we'll kind of go through maybe some different examples of what this all looks like. And I know a lot of that kind of sounds like maybe out of context. So I wanted to put it into more ARM specific context just to connect the dots a little bit for everyone here. So when we think of machine learning, this is like your new hire agent, right? And they're watching like 10,000 calls and learning what works. And when we're getting to that NLP, that level 2, that's like your QA manager who's listened to a call and they can instantly pick up tone, sentiment, disputes. So think of it as like your seasoned QA manager, right? They've had that experience, they've gone through that training. Your LLM, your level 3, that's like that senior agent, so your senior collector who could just like rewrite that call script on the fly because they've just done it so many times and they know what good looks like. Again, that's because they've gone through so many reps. They're just able to do that on the fly. And then thinking about Gen AI in an ARMS context, this is like that sidekick that you always wanted to help you draft maybe that note, that email, that response, and be able to kind of be that sounding board for you. So hopefully putting it in these ARM terms gives it a little more context for your world. So why AI matters in our space today? Well, a lot of things are changing in the space, right? Increasing regulations, compliance complexity. We have a lot of churn and it's slow to ramp the agents, and the QA teams can't scale manually, especially with all the digital channels, right? If we think about how many text messages or emails we can send and then multiplying that across all of your agents and versus the calls are being made today, well, I can send two, three, 400 texts in seconds if I mass blast, but I can make one call at a time. Being able to QA that when we're getting those replies back, it's just not scalable to do it manually. But also something I've been seeing quite a lot engaging with multiple agencies is that within their RFPs, they're seeing the need to have some kind of AI, whether that's like, back office, whether that's like a agent support feature, but it's now starting to come up a lot more from lenders or doctors, hospitals, etc., because everyone's starting to see that there is an efficiency there to unlock, and they want to work with companies that are more pushing that edge and being a little more tech savvy. So, the highlight here is that, the technology is caught up. So AI is now not theory based, it's practical, it's domain specific, and it does impact real account recovery management workflows. So the tactical takeaway is that agencies today are already adopting AI. Some of the benefits and value that they're seeing is faster onboarding of new agents. If we think about leveraging AI to ramp and train agents, higher liquidation rates, so enabling agents to perform better, or also utilizing AI to maybe score your portfolios, or even allocating to specific agents based on performance. And then obviously stronger compliance posture. If we're thinking about AI, scanning, auditing 100% of all your agents' interactions across your digital and voice channels. All right, we'll keep going. So the different landscape, right? When we talk about AI, there's different ways to go about it. So I just want to spend a little time to maybe kind of break it into three main categories. The first one is the custom AI models. This is like built in house. So let's say you had a data team and they are like your AI data team, which some agencies have today. They'd be building out that unique AI model. It takes a lot of time. It's a huge lift. It's very resource intensive, right? So the pros of that is going to be completely tailored to your business. The cons are expensive, resource intensive, and it's slow to update. When we're thinking about maybe leveraging like a public AI model, like a GPT or a Grok, right? That's fast to deploy with broad capabilities. But again, because it's a more general model, it's not going to be specialized for collections, right? So there could be lower accuracy just because it's a generic model. And then there also could be risk of hallucinations because depending on how things are getting prompted and how the model's set up. The third way is specialized platforms like how Cedric is designed. So that's tuned to industry specific language and compliance rules and regulations and set up to work within a particular subset, right? So in our case, account recovery management. And then the cons there is obviously less customizable than in-house models, right? So takeaway here is when you're starting to look at AI, really choose what kind of model from these three main lists is going to fit your stage and needs because there's definitely not a one size fit all. I mean, I've worked with agencies where they're leveraging Cedric, but they also built some stuff in-house because they had just a very unique use case, right? Other times it can be a blend. They're using some public models and that's getting the job done for those use cases. And we'll go into that and make it a little more tangible in just a moment. So let's talk about real world use cases, right? And we'll just go through a couple of them. So one of them would be prioritizing accounts, which we know is always like a challenge. So the pains that agents are wasting their time on low yield accounts, leveraging AI, it can predict the likelihood, so propensity to pay, and help build smarter call lists, right? If it's able to look back historically and to be able to see that people were answering more frequently, it can surface that. So more RPCs, better liquidation, less time wasted. Real-time call guidance. Again, this is helping like maybe those new agents, the ones that just maybe struggle a little bit freezing. That's the challenge, right? Is get those new agents, make them comfortable, make sure they're ramping and effective, also while ensuring they're compliant. AI then can prompt them in real time for objections, the hardship scripts, the disclosures, making sure they're following your call scripts. So the value there would be, more confident agents, fewer violations, and shorter ramp up time. So as we can see, and we go through two more final examples, there's a whole lot of use cases across your entire business, right? And what I want to do is just give you a couple ideas on how to think about that and how to go tackle it. So two more, 100% QA, post-call monitoring. So, right, the manual reviews are challenging. AI can score every interaction and flag those high-risk calls. So I like to say that this is going from finding a needle in a haystack to an exception-based list where those calls need some kind of QA touch, whether it's remediation because there's an escalation, or maybe that the call failed the scorecard and the QA needs to then instigate training. So from that, the value there is that full compliance coverage, faster coaching cycles, and also just full oversight. Last one is training and coaching agents. So instead of doing like generic training that's maybe not in line with where each agent's actually struggling, AI can give those live prompts based on objections or based on where that specific agent is struggling. So that way, from a value perspective, they're getting the help that they need from AI, and then management's obviously able to see those trainings and they can dial in on that and really give that one-to-one coaching. So a couple use cases there. I know that's high level. So what I wanted to do is actually just take a moment and kind of zoom in a little bit more, so you have more context there of what this actually looks like from a before and after perspective. And I think most people know, like, speech analytics is usually like an entry point many times for agencies to start with leveraging AI. So I just took kind of a common example. So if we think about before AI, what the world looks like is, your QA is reviewing about 5% of your calls, and it's usually just a random selection based on call length or maybe disposition, depending on how the process goes. The scoring can, oftentimes be subjective because we're human and humans have biases by nature. The reviews are manual and, we could potentially be missing violations because we're only looking at maybe 5% of the calls. And then there's a delay in feedback because coaching lags can be 1 to 2 weeks, and then they're often, generic. So based on just a couple calls, maybe they missed the recording disclosure. So the coaching's about not missing a recording disclosure. And then there's a ton of manual reporting, right? Because QA is not just scoring calls, they're looking for those disputes, escalations, complaints, bankruptcies, DNCs, etc. And so they have to not only create those reports to either potentially share back with the lenders, but also to make sure they have it for their own internal reporting. And typically that's all done in hand, via CSV files and a lot of Excel manipulation. So really not scalable if we think about the frequency of interactions that we're having, going to a more digital approach. So then moving over to AI, what it looks like in reality is, you're leveraging AI to analyze 100% of your interactions across all your channels. You're able to consistently score your scorecards with, around, let's say, a 95, 96% accuracy. But I'd say is like bare minimum if your AI speech analytics isn't at least 92% accurate, then you're going to spend more time chasing down what's called false positives, meaning it detected something incorrectly, than you are getting value from it. So you do want to make sure, and we'll go into this a little bit later, that not only are you looking at, AI, but especially when it comes down to accuracy, spending some time to understand like how accurate is that particular product or vendor? How do you know you're that accurate? And you want to make sure it's at a threshold where you're not going to spend more time training a system than getting the insights and value from it. Small tangent there, but I just wanted to elaborate there because it is a crucial point. And we think about real-time coaching and triggers. So target feedback based on training is not automatically based on what the rep did or didn't do on the call, and or what happened, within that scorecard. If they missed a critical failure like the RPC or recording disclosure, mini Miranda, and then dashboards. So you don't have to spend your time building things out. You get live tracking and insights. You can do those audit ready reports and have those escalation insights ready when needed. So the takeaway here is that AI doesn't just score more calls, it's going to surface the right ones, trigger faster coaching, and automate the reporting that you need. So I hope that you can see it with a little more of a detailed kind of deep dive into things. AI is a catalyst to your existing processes, right? So it enables you to do things quicker and more efficient. Or what I like to say is it automates the repetitive tasks so you can get to the point of business insights that you need to then pull the levers in the business, whether it's reducing risk to the portfolio via, QA, or whether it's finding those key areas that the agents need help in coaching in so they can perform better and stay longer in the seat. AI is going to kind of do that busy work to get you all those insights so then you know where to spend your time. All right. So we covered a lot with AI, and I wanted to also just share like a quick checklist, right? So when you're looking to kick off your own AI project internally, again, where do I start? How do I get going? So a couple questions to ask yourself, like, do you know what part of your workflow causes the most delay, risk, or manual work? So if we're thinking about where to deploy AI, that's the first question you're going to ask yourself. And the second piece is once you identify that workflow, like let's say it's like sending out letters, right? Because letters can be a very manual process. Then can you identify where that data is stored and how it flows? Right. So we go up with that example of sending letters, then all of the debtors, do you know where all that data is? Do you know how that gets stored? And do you know what system it flows through once you do send out a letter to then mark that CRM that a letter has been sent to that particular debtor? You want to be able to kind of map that data flow out and where it's stored because AI is going to need to tap into that. So being able to understand that at a high level doesn't need to be super technical, but just high level is going to be really helpful when you're engaging with vendors because that's going to be some of the questions that they ask is where is the data, how does it flow, and how can we potentially connect to it? And then do you have a way to track performance KPIs, even if manual? So this is, I know what success looks like because I'm able to, save time on the amount of letters going out, or maybe reduce the amount of errors with the letters that we are sending, whatever that KPI may be, and it can be more than one. Do we have alignment on that and can we track that performance? Because when you move forward with AI, obviously you're spending some money. You need to make sure then that you're getting that return and that benefit, and we've all aligned internally on what that value looks like. And that goes to, I know what good would look like if AI helped, right? These two go together. So you have your KPIs and you know what good looks like. Is good a 20% decrease in the errors with the letters getting sent or a different KPI? Again, all that's important. And lastly, you have people within the company who can help test or pilot or a small team, right? You're not going to be able to do this on your own, so you want to make sure you have the internal buy-in. So I just wanted to share this kind of quick checklist of kind of the key ways that I would think about tackling a new AI project internally. And then getting started. So, right, practical steps. So start with one high impact use case, right? We don't want to boil the ocean here. Pick one thing to get started with and kind of go down that piece. And then, like I said, you're mapping that existing data, right? So do you know where your data is, your calls, chats, emails? Are they living in CRM, dialer, SharePoint? And then asking the right questions when you're looking at vendors, right? So how accurate is your AI on day one? How do you handle model errors and false positives? This is really important one because AI is a machine, right? And a machine learns. So part of the value is understanding how does that machine learn from the data and information it's processing so it can get better and more accurate. And you really want to dive into that because you need to understand, is this like going to be requiring me training the model? Do I have to keep sending examples? Or does that vendor have something where I can just give like maybe a thumbs up, thumbs down, and they can take care of the rest of it? That's just making sure like once you've onboarded ongoing, it's meeting those expectations. You understand what's required of you, right? And same that goes to here too, right? So once I give the feedback, how does it do the training, right? What kind of feedback loops are there? What kind of training processes in place, and how frequently does that happen, right? Because if we've identified an area where the AI could improve within that workflow, you want to know how long it takes for the feedback to get processed and for the model to improve. And that way you can make sure that that's going to be meeting your expectations of what you're expecting from that vendor. I always recommend start small and then expand, right? So choose one team or like one channel if you're looking to optimize an outbound channel, track those predefined KPIs and start from there. And then share those quick wins, right? So for example, if you went with like a real-time agent assist product and it's doing the note summarization for you, the post-call summaries, and that's reducing your wrap-up time by 7%, amazing, right? Now your agents are spending 7% less time on non-revenue generating activities and can spend 7% more time taking more calls or leveraging your digital channels, right? So you want to use those small wins as you're doing that rollout to justify a broader adoption. So common questions and straightforward answers, right? We looked at how to deploy, we looked at how to track success. So now kind of the common ones I get, like, will AI replace my team? No. It's designed to be an assistant, not replace, right? It handles those repetitive tasks, right? So we think going back to QA, scoring those calls, right? Or summarizing the notes when the agent's having to write the notes. That's the work that's needed to get done in order for you to get to those insights or in order for you to spend more time on the phone with consumers. How do notes looking at the right things? So this is where you have to work with the vendors and ask about their AI models, like how does it identify, risk priorities, interactions, and adopts to your workflows. What you're going to find out is the ones that are transparent are the ones that you probably want to go forward with. If it's a black box and they can't give you a good answer, that would cause a little concern and pause on my end, right? Because they should be able to share the basics with you because these are common things that you're going to want to understand so that way you can make sure you're actually getting the intended value. And then will it work with the systems you already use? So most AI tools will integrate with your current systems. Obviously, there will be, use cases and things are kind of case by case depending on how your technology stack is set up. But by and large, there's ways to do integrations with the AI platforms. And that's why that data mapping and data flow is so important. And then the last one, right? How soon can I expect results? High level answer is it's going to depend on the project, but I'd say typically you should start seeing results within 30 to 90 days post go live with the AI tool or vendor that you're using, right? If it's around like the QA coverage, which is like, typical for companies and agencies to start with, I'd say, that 30 to 60, 90-day marker, definitely doable. But again, I think this is something you can ask the vendors, like, well, when do I see results? Is there kind of a ramp? What is, maybe like full deployment or full accuracy, right? And then just tying it all together. So AI isn't magic, it's a practical toolkit. Whether you're a 10-person shop or 200 plus, there's small measurable ways to make those improvements, right? And from that, you can continue to learn and grow and expand to practical use cases across all your departments. And last piece here, make it a little more specific. Ops leaders, maybe start with one call type or line of business. Trainers and QA, pick one repetitive QA or coaching task. And an executive owner, work with your team to identify the biggest inefficiencies. And then consider how AI could help one workflow. So just wanted to make it super specific depending on who's here today. That's all I got for you. Thank you so much. Back to you, Remy.
That was excellent. Thank you so much, Chris. And thank you all for the first poll. I'm actually going to ask one more poll. 55% of you said you're already using AI, and 45% of you said not yet. You're getting there. So I'm going to do one more poll. We have a few questions, and then we're going to get that started. So this one's about what do you wish you could do with AI? Let's see some of these answers to these questions. And in the meantime, while I'm waiting for AL, I will check out the questions and let's see if we could start getting them answered. Okay, so we have one already. This is a good one. So I was just at ACA last week. I'm sure a couple of you were there. And I did get a few questions about this. This is about CPI data. So it is, how does AI learn from our data without risking sensitive customer info? What about CPI data or HIPAA protected personal data? Chris, do you want to take that? Do you want me to take that? I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry,
There
I'll
you
take that one because I just went through an audit, so I learned
go.
all the
Okay.
fun stuff. So high level, it's going to depend how the AI model is set up. When we think about like, customer information, HIPAA information, I'll speak about like how Cedric's is set up just as a use case. So Cedric takes like, let's say your call transcription, and we take the call audio, we turn it into a transcription. Immediately after going through the transcription, we put it through our redaction processes, whether it's PCI, PII, company confidential information, HIPAA, etc. And then we delete the unredacted version. So then the entire processing and anything else that touches that is all from that redacted version. So I'd say the AI vendors would have to follow a similar process in order to protect it. The second piece that I'll add is that you'd want to ask your AI vendors what kind of contracts they signed with their sub AI models. So, for example, with Cedric, all of our contracts state that you cannot use any Cedric data to train a larger model. And that is exclusive in the contracts, and we audit annually to that because we're required by clients. So, those are the two ways to protect the data there. Remy, I don't know if you want to add any points there.
No, I think that was pretty good. That's excellent. I actually do have AL here, but he said we have a connection between attendee. Oh, there he is. Al, I don't know if you just heard Chris's wonderful answer. If you had anything to add there, it was about sensitive data and how AI does deal with that. Everybody, this is Al. He is the Cedric CTO and AI expert par
Hi,
excellence.
everyone. Yeah, so managed to hear it. And Remy, Chris, great to see you guys.
Good
Chris
seeing you.
was a great presentation, great webinar so far.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think that first and foremost, protecting sensitive information is the top priority, right? And when we built and designed Cedric, we took privacy and compliance as one of our most important values, and we have it in our core. So regardless to what Chris just mentioned with PII and PCI reduction that we do, we perform on transcripts before we actually use AI. We also encrypt data, so data is encrypted in the database level when we transmit it through our systems. And also access control is very crucial. So every access to any AI system, to the models themselves, changing the models, training the data is tightly controlled. And obviously, if you're in a regulated industry, we can help you configure these systems in Cedric with your compliance needs.
And it's great that you said that you could help because that actually brings to the next question. This is okay. We are a smaller collections agency. Do we need a dedicated data science team in order to start using AI in our business? Whoever wants to take it. AL, go for it.
Yeah,
Kick off
I
the
think
lot.
this is one of my favorite questions because today you have a really strong companies that focus on AI and specialize on actually making the best out of it. So I think it's a big misconception. You don't need a team of PhDs. Simply choose the right AI platform. For example, at Cedric, we have pre-built tools that are tailored for the collections workflows. And this really helps level up the playing field, right? So small agencies can also compete with the capabilities of large players as well.
That's excellent. Did you want to add anything, Chris?
He said it so well. I don't have anything that's going to outshine that answer. So,
There you go. And we have one more question. So if anyone else has any more questions, you can add them to the Q&A while we still have AL. This one, I think, Chris, you touched on this, but we could ask it anyway. How soon will I typically see results once my AI is deployed?
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It depends on what AI, you're leveraging and what we're looking to tackle. If I just choose like speech analytics, like again, where most people kind of start, I'd say 30 to 60 days is where you're going to start seeing results, right? If you're choosing like let's say like an AI agent and it needs a plethora of training, that timeline's going to be a lot longer. So high level, it depends. Like I'd say around the 30 to 120 day mark max, but definitely talk to all the vendors and ask them. Like ask them from day one value and ask them how long does it take to ramp and get to steady state. Because there is that learning curve for the agency and also the vendor of like how you do business, tuning, etc. So I would also ask just to get that clarity.
All right. Thank you. That's all the questions we have. Al, Chris, thank you so much. To
Thank
all
you.
the attendees, I will send you a recording of this presentation, and you can reply with any other questions you may have thought of. And we'll be in touch. Keep tuned for the next webinar, and thank you so much, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
care.